to the Crossroads Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Hunter Grand, your personal agent for change, making life easy, Barz.
And I'm Fempreneur Extraordinaire, Tech Diva all day, Dre Renee.
And this is the Crossroads, where there's only one rule.
Be free to be you.
I used the right finger this week. Did you check it? Did you see
that? I was actually looking right at the camera, so I missed that. But
oh yeah, I had
bad.
Yeah. So I gotta practice. I don't gesture with my right hand when I'm doing the show, and I have to practice that because the mic is in the way.
Well, you made it.
Bam! There it is. There it is. How you feeling?
I feel good.
It's been a couple of days over here.
Yeah, same. But in this moment, I feel good. I'll just say that. Some good things happened today, and I'm just gonna lean into the good because there's enough to complain about. You know?
Yeah, it just complaining ain't never did no good. Venting, yeah, but complaining, and there's a staunch difference, I believe, between venting and complaining. But we're gonna have a good time tonight because we have a great show planned.
Yes, absolutely.
And a great guest. This is a guest week, y'all. So we gonna bring it. But in the spirit of that, I like to get these bills knocked out early. So we're gonna take care of that. And then we're gonna get into what we're talking about this week. So, y'all, as always, the Crossroads Podcast is brought to you by the House of 334.
It's the house.
For all your business branding and copyright needs, go to houseof334.com. It is Black owned, it is woman owned, and it is amazing. And make sure you move quickly because the house will fill up fast. The Crossroads Podcast is also brought to you by The Crossroads. Y'all, you can go to our bit.ly. That's bit.ly/The Crossroads, THEXROSSROADZ for everything we do, for all of our links, our socials, and our happenings going on within The Crossroads. So make sure you go there. And while you're watching us on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you go down, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification so you know anytime that we're posting something. If you're listening to us on one of our audio platforms, go to YouTube. It's youtube.com/The Crossroads. And make sure that you subscribe there. But most of all, and most importantly, y'all, this is a labor of love, but love ain't free. And if you think it is, go tell your landlord that you love them. So for those who continue to support the Crossroads, you can go to our Patreon. Right, y'all, the members area has been open for quite some time, and we want to thank all of our members who are enjoying all of the behind the scenes footage, our watch party, and all of the extras from the Crossroads Podcast. So you can go to patreon.com/The Crossroads, again, THEXROSSROADZ, and become a member. We have several membership tiers, but all the same content. So just pick a level that you want to support the show and enjoy with the rest of the members. And we appreciate everyone who's been giving, who continues to give, and who will give. Whether you're a day one or a first day, we love all of you.
Love it. Yes. You do that so well. Let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with the show Reasonable Doubt?
Yes.
Do you watch it?
Okay, so I'm about to get in trouble. Thank you so very much.
We
good. No, we're good. I have not watched it yet. So shout out to Tash Gray, who is a good friend of mine and also a writer of Reasonable Doubt.
So fun fact, we used to go to church together, but I watched the show. I'm not gonna get in trouble.
Yeah, I watch all her other shows. I just haven't watched that one yet.
Yeah, so. I happened to see her name, but that wasn't why I brought it up. But it is an excellent show. And this past season, there were some themes there that I thought, would be interesting to bring up for the show, or perhaps as a watch party. So,
I mean, I'm gonna watch it. So let's now it's an assignment.
There you go.
So, and for those y'all, check out Tash Gray's work. She's written on if you've seen Snowfall, then you've seen Tash Gray's work, Raising Canaan, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So, y'all, she's definitely legit. And a master of her craft. So, now that I'm speaking of getting in trouble,
I didn't know that was going to go that way at all.
No, this is the only episode where I'm like, oh, I hope somebody don't watch it now. But it is what it is.
Cool thing called editing.
No, I'm not gonna
Now you
edit it
see
out.
it? No, you don't.
I gotta be accountable.
Okay. All right. All right.
So we have a very interesting conversation that we are going to have. As you know, we are leaning into the Gen X and Xennial space and some of the unique happenings in our lives. And our guest today is going to help us dive into that conversation. It's not his first time on the show. He's family. He was brought in season 1, early in the season, and he's back for season 2. We got some excellent behind the scenes from members. We had, so you want to check out the conversations. But y'all, this is a psychotherapist extraordinaire. Probably one of the leading experts in imposter syndrome in that space. Phenomenal therapist and just a phenomenal friend and brother and friend to the show as well. So I want to bring on my frat brother, right? A distinguished gentleman of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm sitting here saying it wrong. I'm about to get hazed on the show. Y'all, welcome to the show. We call him Stevie Lou, but you know him as Stevon Lewis, psychotherapist.
Hey,
what's happening in the building, yo?
You know what I'm saying? With the yo.
Yes, sir.
Y'all go
Yes,
twirl.
sir.
Where's the canes at?
No, man. And I want to one for those who want to try to mimic the sign and be like, first of all, this is not our sign. This is not our sign. You gotta break that.
You gotta have some angles there. Gotta have some angles.
So for y'all young noobs out there that be throwing it up wrong, let me give you the quick tutorial. Throw it outward and then pull it back.
Oh,
you see that?
Hey,
and then back.
Now you learn something.
That's the yo.
You learn.
I've been in the bond for a minute. Hey, I've not heard that. That's a good tutorial. I may use that.
Pass it. It's information. Pass it on.
I was taught that a while ago. I think I'm quite all right at it too.
Yeah. There it is.
Now, don't everybody go out there and start doing that.
That is not for everyone.
Do not do that. If you're not a member,
those are for members.
Don't do that.
Right.
I just wanted to be a friend.
And when I say members, I don't mean Patreon members. I mean members of
duly initiated members of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated.
Yeah. Card carrying.
There you go. Those folks.
Financial.
All the things. Things.
Right.
What's happening, y'all? Crimson
coat wearing.
Hey, I'm gonna be doing that in a week or so, actually.
Right. Lapel pin.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I'm saying?
I love it. I love all of it.
Coat of arms on the left side.
Hey, that's where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
Amen.
Oh yeah. All right, that's enough Greek stuff.
Yeah.
We're giving it too much again. Right.
Absolutely. Well, how are you?
I've been good. I'm good. Happy to be back for season 2. This is dope. Out there season 1, and y'all invited the brother back. What's happening?
Yeah, we're so glad to have you.
Season 1, we ain't on Zoom no more for one.
Facts. That happened. Elevated. Y'all got matching mics and stuff, and look at all the graphics and digital stuff. So y'all popping.
Thank you.
Patreon community. Hey, in the building on all the social media outlets. I said, hey, they doing it. Somebody been grinding.
Yeah. And we've been grinding, and now it's time to grow. So that's phase 2. Phase 1 was the grind. Phase 2 is the grow.
Let's do that. We're gonna grow together then. I'm with it.
And then phase 3, like the ultimate goal is we will be streaming from some of any and everywhere.
I like that. I'm with it.
On location. But while we are on this particular platform, we are looking to in studio. That's another phase. So there's a lot that we have planned. And we do give advice to people who are coming into the podcasting space. One, we will be doing classes and consultations.
It's a need. People are trying to start their podcasts, and there's ways to do it, and some ways are better than others. Yeah.
Right. So we're not gatekeepers, but the game is going to be sold and not told.
Keep it 100. That's capitalism. You didn't do that.
Yeah, no, that's just what we do. I mean, we do like give certain
for sure, but no, this is it's a business at the end of the day. People got to eat. You got to pay bills. Like you said, the Lord don't run off of love.
Yeah. But we don't. Say that to say we're not just turning on cameras and mics and talking. There's a lot of planning and vision work that's going on behind the scenes. So the things that you're seeing now are manifestations of the work and the planning and the vision work that we've put in. And so we set goals and we have a vision and we're on one accord for where we want to go with this. And yeah, we on our way there.
And we're glad you can see the fruit. We're glad that
I pays attention.
There it is.
Love it. So before we get into conversation, can you give us a little bit more about your background, how you got into the work that you're doing, maybe your favorite part of that work, but give us, a little bit more background about you, and then we'll get into convo.
For sure. My name is Stevon Lewis. I'm a Cancer. I like to write. No, I'm joking. Give him a whole rundown. Lean into now. I've been a therapist for a while now. I got licensed. Trying to think back, like 2012, something like that. But it's a process. You got to start doing therapy while you're still in school and stuff like that. But always knew I wanted to be a therapist. I tell people that from a young age, I've always been curious about people and about their story. I can even remember back to times when I was in elementary school and seeing some behaviors in kids and always wondering, what's going on at home? What's happening with that kid that they're presenting in this way? So I've always been fascinated by people. And when I first got out of grad school, I had this strong desire to work with couples. And so I had branded myself as a couples therapist and was doing couples work. And after you do couples work, you realize you probably don't want to work with couples. I will say that maybe I wasn't the best at doing that because my brand or style of therapy might not be as filled with emotion. I'd be like, yeah, I hear the emotion in that. Let's operate with logic. And a lot of couples, relationship stuff is really around emotion. And I don't really live there. So, for whatever reason, I realized hey, this isn't my calling, but I was taking a look at the clients that I really, really enjoyed, and they all kind of presented with the same thing. And that's kind of how I fell into Impostor Syndrome. And that was back in 2017. I just had a few people that were doing really well in life and just kind of had this lingering self-doubt that didn't make sense to me. And I did some research on it and I was like, oh, it has a name. Say less, I'm on it. This is all I want to work with now. And reposition myself or rebranded myself in the space and never look back.
That's what they say in relationships. It's okay to change your mind.
Yeah. well, okay. he's already doing some things. In theory, you're not wrong.
I just said that's what they say. I didn't say I agree or I didn't give a stand.
You said it.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, like they say in relationships, professionally, it is okay to change.
It's okay to change. It's okay to change. You got to find out what matches to you. And if you don't want this work to feel like work, then you should really do a version of this that is really enjoyable to you.
Yeah, that sounds like relationships. But
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. If you ain't feeling it, then do something else. I'm like,
you probably should. You probably should. Yeah,
absolutely.
But I signed the paper already.
oof. I feel you, and I understand what's driving that decision.
Yeah, I'll say this, fellas: you can change your mind, but it's gonna cost you.
Martin used to say, "It's cheaper to keep it."
It's cheaper to keep it.
Here we go.
That's Martin said that. Martin said that.
Well, that's a song, actually, but
it's a song.
There you go. So he stole it from somebody. I was with you.
Oh. give me
with the crisp snaps too.
There you go.
See, that's how you know. That's how you know you're getting old when the snap get crisp.
And you practice on those snaps.
Yeah, when you're young, you snap down here. When you get old, you're like,
I want people to know I'm on beat. Hey, for real.
I know that's right.
You see the pivot in the behind the scenes, man. Go check the Patreon and check the tape, y'all. He tried to young boy me there, and now he's like, now I'm getting too old. Hey, he's not consistent, and I'm gonna have a problem with that in a minute. Patreon followers, go check your boy. Check your boy out.
Oh, okay. That's what we do today. You know what? Let me hand it over to Drake because we're gonna be. I already see what's about to happen.
Hilarious. This is going to be a lot of fun. So, imposter syndrome. You talked about lingering self-doubt, but what is the definition, if you will, of imposter syndrome, and specifically for those of us in this age bracket. We're talking about Gen X and Xennials. How does it uniquely affect us, in your opinion?
Okay, great question. So I'll get technical for a minute.
Yeah.
Actual name is imposter phenomenon. We know it as imposter syndrome. It got changed back in the day. Been around for a very long time, since like the late 70s. Two women out of the University of Georgia doing some research on grad students, mostly women, and kind of realized that the women, even though they were getting kind of the same marks as the men, didn't really feel like they were doing as well, even though that's not documented, right? There's no evidence to support they're not doing well. They had this lingering feeling about that, and they lived in fear of being found out to be a fraud. And so that's kind of what imposter syndrome is. It is this fear of being found out to be a fraud and not in possession of the talent and abilities that everyone can clearly see you have on a daily basis.
Sounds
so
familiar.
It's kind of like when women be like, Barz, you so handsome. I'm like, I mean,
okay.
Well,
I mean, hey, that's what I'm saying. If you're getting it from everybody else and you look in the mirror and you don't see it, at some point,
I don't feel handsome,
Yeah.
But and so I'll be like, really, tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me
more.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that ain't imposter syndrome, but
right.
What do I know?
I don't judge me,
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Let me just take your word for it.
Yeah. So Dre, you asked kind of like about this population, our generation, Gen X, millennials, Xennials, if you will. So kind of how it shows up for us, I think, is some of the expectations that maybe we adopted from the generation before us that aren't really attainable in that same way. And so what happens then is we feel like we're failing because we aren't kind of meeting a standard that might be inappropriate for what society gives us, or the opportunities we have, or just the cost of things that we define as this makes us successful.
That's it. It's a number of things, I think about, so I can say this because we celebrated my 40th birthday on the show, so people know I'm over 40. So 43 years old. I got married at 40. Felt like that was super late. Like, my parents were married and had me at 23 and 25 in a house. And
I was so unprepared at that age.
Yeah, but between 23 and 25, I was already in full sweat. Like, I just got out the house, right? I'm behind. And then the years just kept going and kept going.
And my parents were 26 and 22 when they had me, and I wasn't the first child.
But I don't think I ever considered, well, maybe I considered it, but I don't think I weighed it appropriately, that, the things that we're up against are much different, than they were. The fact that they were able to, be in a house, and many people in our age bracket will never own a house, and so, those are things, but we can beat ourselves up about those things versus saying, life has dealt me a different hand than, my parents or the previous generation.
Yeah. I think it's the pressure to do certain things, because again, we, like Dre was saying, we were born and then shifted into a whole different economy, right? So back then, buying a home was like, boomers were like, oh, I'm a homeowner. Like, that's just what people did. Like, I didn't really know people that lived in apartments.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? As a kid, it's like everybody lived in houses. Everybody was homeowners. You didn't really hear, not that it wasn't happening, but you didn't hear about foreclosing and people losing their house and stuff like that. Right. And just like we talk about, when we joke about in LA, when gang members press you like, oh, where you from? And you're like, oh, I don't bang. Well, where you live at? Oh, I don't say where your granny stay, right? Yeah. And even though like people laugh at where your granny stay, the reason why that was a question is because Granny always had a house and everybody was over at Granny house. And Granny, that house has been in the family, you know what I'm saying? So from Granny to mom or dad to, you know what I mean? And so that wasn't our reality. So they wasn't losing houses. It was just, you know what I'm saying? Like you had a house and it stayed in the family, but they were able to afford it. It wasn't, you know, like just things happened to where our lives are different. So now to say you are a homer, if you're Gen X and you say you are a homer, word, oh, congratulations. Like
it's a flex.
It's an accomplishment.
It's
you
a
know
flex.
What I mean? Right. And so it's a lot of folks that are like, I don't want to do that, you know, because it's your financial sense, because on average, how do we think about credit and purchasing everything else? We typically look at what's the monthly payment. And if I can keep up with the monthly payment, then right, we're not looking at interest, inflation, all these other factors, maintenance, you know, of home. So, you know, you get in the home and you got this flex, but I also know a lot of people that lost their home because you know what I'm saying, they couldn't keep it up. And then now you're living with this level of embarrassment. You know, you tell everybody you bought the home, but you quiet when you lose it. Actually, you should be. Who's going to announce that?
Right.
But also are we living to this expectation of our parents? I see my parent, we grew up in a house, mom and dad had a house and blah, 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 blah. And so we feel this is what I should be doing too. And there's this standard that we're trying to live up to that is not necessarily conducive to the world that we live in today.
At all. And it doesn't, I don't know if it's reflective of our value system, right? Like, you know, maybe I'm not speaking for myself, but I know people like to be outside. I don't know that our parents was living like that. Like you said, you know, your parents, you know, early 20s, mid 20s, having kids, having a family. So that's suggests already like a more settled, you know, family lifestyle, you know, to a degree, right? Like, hey, everybody's parents got a history.
I'll just say this. My mama got married at 18.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And so my point is, like, you know, in terms of us kind of matching or gauging kind of our progress against theirs, it's two different trajectories, right? Like, you know, I don't know about for y'all. My parents didn't go to college. Dad went to the Army. My mom did some school, but not a whole lot. They got good government jobs, you know, benefits, pensions, whole nine. That's not my reality.
Mine exact same for me.
Exactly. So, like, you know, even home ownership, the way they're thinking about it was different. Like that was putting up roots because, again, we have these kids. We have to leave something for a legacy. I have no children. I don't know, you know, where you all are in family planning. Don't think you got some, but, you know, could be maybe.
No.
I ain't got no phone call.
Don't mess up my happy home. Talking about you don't think. Yeah.
You know, babe, it could be one in the oven right now. I don't know. I was baking, you know.
Hold on. Let me. Yeah.
He said, not gonna mind.
Yeah.
But I mean, home ownership, like, what does it represent? I think our parents were thinking about the legacy, passing it on. Like you said, it goes from granny to mom or pops down to grandkids, and then we just keep it in the family. It's an asset, it grows. Some of those homes are paid off. You know, getting in the home now is, what do I want that as an investment to do if I can get in? Right. And, you know, people say, oh, and I think the generation before us used to tell us all the time, like, get a home because it's going to be freedom and stuff. And I'm like, kind of. You alluded to a lot of stuff, Barz, and when you were talking about like the cost of maintaining a home, you put a lot of money into a home before you see a return on it. And you don't really see a return unless you sell it or if you refinance it. Right. It's a good place to hide money, right? In a sense, to kind of make sure that you've got money and it's growing as an asset with equity. But until you leverage that equity, you know, it ain't in your bank account, is what I'm saying. Right. It ain't in your bank account. Right. And we like to travel and stuff.
Yeah. And I follow this cat, Ramit Sethi. He has a pod called I Can Teach You to Be Rich. And his book, he had a series on Netflix as well. But he was talking about that, like somebody bought a house years ago. Let's say they paid $300,000 back in the day, and then now they sold it for, you know, $500,000, and then their belief is they made $200,000. But it's like, how much did you spend? Fixing up the home? Did you fix the roof? Had to replace the central AC? You got the house painted? You know, plumbing issues over the years, right? Like all over the years. What was the tab on that? And you may have spent $200,000 after, because it's $10,000 here. And like, it's not cheap. So you maybe have broke even, or you may have lost money. You know what I mean? So I just think our approach, and a lot of us just wasn't taught, because again, the world is different financially and otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're living up to, or trying to live up to a standard that one probably didn't exist, because our parents, boomers, wanted us to do better and be better. Like Gen X was the first generation that was pushed towards college,
Yeah.
right? Like boomers, graduate high school, go to the military or get a job,
Mm-hmm.
right? The world changed. We were pushed toward college. You know what I mean? You gotta go. And so that's why you got a lot of our generation that got degrees in communications and African studies, and
those are good degrees, by the way. That's
yeah. I was like,
he
always about to get us in trouble.
But
Every
no,
5 seconds.
what I mean, that's cool. But in 2024, what are you doing with that degree, right?
Right.
And I mean, even if you have something that's more specific, are you operating in your field of study? It's not like, it's not like you went and got an MFT and became a therapist like everybody.
No, it's a lot of people got psychology degrees and aren't doing any psychology degree stuff per se.
Exactly. Yeah. So
I mean, if you count this,
no shade. Didn't know.
But but the thing is, we went to college because we were told to go to college. And it was like, but when you get there, do what? Right? Pick a major. Okay. To do what?
There you go. With what goal?
With what you said, I mean. And then I think a lot of us didn't start really thinking that way until the master's level.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Sometimes, but then some just went and got a master's, and then some found out, like, I don't even want to do this. I got this master. So what if for you were doing couples therapy and then you decided, dang, I actually don't even want to be a therapist?
Oof. Right? I spent a lot of time, for those that don't know, to get licensed as a therapist takes years. So it's not a fast track degree. So I tell people, like, when they think, oh, I want to be a therapist, it's like, okay, well, you got to do 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of grad school, at least. And this is for master's level clinicians. And then you have to do 2 years post-graduation of supervision before you can even take the test, right? And then you have to pass the first part before you can take the second part. So that's, we do the math on that. I'm not a mathematician, but we're looking at like 8+ years.
Yeah.
And that's if you're doing a master's level. If you're doing a doctoral degree, add 3 more years to that. That's a commitment.
Yeah. Oh, I know somebody
that's longer than some marriages.
Yeah. Well, that's actually most marriages now, to be honest, if we're being honest. And so then, I mean, so you do these things, and it's honestly akin to a lot of the work that I'm doing now, right? With Hello Me, nice to meet you. And I actually have a clip on my Instagram right now for those who are connected to me, where I do an exercise and I'm asking someone in the audience, if I told you there was no sky, would you believe me? And he says, no, I wouldn't believe. I says, why? Oh, because I can see it. Really? Okay. So it's 9 a.m. What do you see? Describe it. Oh, it's blue. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. 9 p.m. What are you going to see? Oh, the stars, the moon. Where are the stars and the moon? In space. Oh, now we're making a distinction between sky and space. So we go through this whole thing, like, where does the sky go? And, why are you looking into the sky at 9 a.m. and then in the space in the 9 p.m.? He's like, and so I was like, so is there a sky? And he's like, oh, I don't know. Then I was like, well, who told you there was a sky? Right. I guess, my teacher. Which teacher? What grade were you in? Right. And just all these very specific questions. And the point that I was making is, you've lived your entire life. He was 25 years old, but he's lived his entire 25-year existence believing a piece of information that he can't trace the genesis of. And so the question then became, how much of programming are we operating from on cruise control?
Yep.
Right. That's not our, and we think we're free thinkers. Oh, I'm doing this because I want to. Are you? Are you really? Because what you think you believe, or what you believe you think came from you, but you can't tell me, oh, I can see the sky, but you can't tell me who taught you a sky. Right. Your name, your God, right. And so because our beliefs drive us, we are our beliefs. Right. And so for your belief system to be shaken up, and just I use that little piece of information, which may not be that life-changing, but then when you find out something else, that's, oh, go to college. You have to go to college if you're going to make it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Graduate high school, go to college, get a job, work for 20, 30 years, retire, you know what I'm saying? Get your pension in retirement and buy a house and live happily ever after. And
if it were so easy.
Right.
Right, because that was their reality. Now Gen X is kind of like, huh? Like how many just of us, how many jobs have we had between the three of us?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so we haven't been at one place for 20 years. Right. No. Well, Dre's almost hitting that for entrepreneurship.
I was like,
but Dre's like, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm right about now.
Yeah, she's getting there. But it took different things, and it's not the pattern or the trajectory that our parents set us on.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
So it's kind of like this lost generation of we were told one thing, and now, where millennials have more of a like, hey, we are digital kids or digital adults now. Gen Z is definitely digital children in a digital world, and they know how to operate it. Like we know this world, right?
Right. Born into it.
Yeah. So we were born into an industrial age and then ushered in the information age.
I feel like millennials are like the first generation to, I guess, see our folly in trying to make that American dream kind of happen from what our, the boomers told us. And it's like, yeah, that don't work. And it's just like, yeah, a hard pass. I'm out, and I'm gonna demand something different. And Gen Z is taking it a step further to be like, don't even come at me asking me something that sounds crazy like that.
Right.
But I like how you said like the belief system, because, like the way I think about things, and, it comes from like my theoretical kind of approach, is that like it's the belief, right? Like once you buy into that belief, that thought, then it'll drive everything else, how you feel about what you're doing, the behavior you engage in as a result of that stuff. And I think that, it's really good for us to kind of engage in that process of thinking about our thinking. Technical term for that, metacognition or metacognitive process, but really thinking about our thoughts and how they are driving how we feel about what we're doing, and our behavior as a result of that, because the behavior is really a result of the emotional experience we're having. And I think like, when it comes to us feeling successful, we really got to take some time to think, like you said, who told you what the sky was? Where did your definition of success come from? Your definition of failure? Is that yours? Is that what you want to do? Or is that what you were told you were supposed to do? I mean, I'm thinking, I look at my own life and it mirrors kind of what parents had set out for me, but, go to college, but they also didn't talk about what that student loan debt was going to be like, because they didn't have, a 529 plan for your boy. So, got to figure that piece out, and I'm still paying on those loans. But I think the only free thinker thing I've done is like decide to not have children, which was told, you get married, the expectation next is when them kids come. When them kids come in, I was like, yeah, I can't afford it.
Listen, I was talking to my friend today, and they was talking about like just the cost of childcare alone. And then
it's crazy numbers.
Yeah, so I'm like, I might be in the wrong business. Let me go on and
Barz,
capitalism. Capitalism at its finest. You gotta love it.
Let me go buy some Legos. Let me go. You know what I'm saying? Get some bouncy balls. Yeah, exactly.
Barz daycare.
Oh, yeah. But the way my nerves are, huh?
I said it'd be fire.
Okay, quite literally.
On fire.
On fire. This business is burning as we speak.
Listen, the way that I need naps, we all listen. When I say it's nap time, I mean all of us. We all
that's not how that works. That's not how that works. That's not how that works.
Oh, grand opening, grand closing.
Yeah, right. Immediately. You can't also be sleep too. Oh my God.
Oh, they put the little names on the mats. Barzini.
First of all, you shouldn't have a mat. That's rule number one.
That's definitely rule one.
Hey, look, I didn't say where I was gonna put it. I might have it in my office, whatever.
It don't matter. Daycare provider does not have a mat. That's just a rule. I didn't make that rule.
Mine might be air mattress. I'm like, look, my back, y'all. I ain't 4 years old.
My back.
It's bad enough. My niece and nephew call me Uncle Granny. I don't know where they get it from.
What?
They call me Uncle Granny.
That's different. That's different.
Way different.
Never ever heard that before in life.
I hope it doesn't stick, but
Me either.
They haven't let go yet. So
yeah.
Have you been out in public and they scream it out, or is it
no,
private
they just
in the house? Okay.
So far, it's still private, but
now it's public. Now it's public information.
It
is. It's public information.
Yeah, you know,
30,000 people now know you as Uncle Granny.
Now, 30,000? Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be
yeah. South Africa gonna be like, "Are you Uncle Granny? It is you." Shout out to South Africa again when we was top 100.
Hey,
yes,
you popping international with it.
I'm saying I didn't even know he was out.
You see the dance? The international dance.
The international dance.
Yeah. Let me stop being defensive because that might not be.
I didn't want to say anything, but also that somebody's gonna have a hard time in the editing room. Not me though.
I'm not editing none of this out. It is what it is.
Maybe you should.
And I'm not even on Red Bull tonight. I don't know what's going on with me. Okay,
just having a good time.
Hold on,
great time apparently.
Yeah. Considering some of the stuff.
He had time out. He had time out for the next 2 minutes.
The show. Yeah, you know what? Take it away, Dre.
That's hilarious.
Dre Renee.
I know, right?
Dre Renee on to be on the ones and twos,
So, he mentioned I have been an entrepreneur for a long time, almost 20 years, which is very interesting to consider.
That's a flex. Entrepreneurship is not easy.
It is not. It is not. And I definitely can identify with still feeling like, is this all about to crumble? And yes, there have been different seasons. There have been peaks and valleys, and there have definitely been hard times. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, Mama, we made it. And thank God for that. But there are still moments, at different turns, different experiences, different opportunities that we have. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure, if I can pull this off, or what if this is the time when everything comes crashing down. And so for those kinds of experiences, when you're working with a client, or, when you're snatching edges on Instagram, how would you, and I'll put myself in the hot seat, but how would you respond, to those types of thoughts and feelings?
Oh man, a few things. So I'm gonna put on I have no hat right now, but I'm putting on my Barzini hat, to ask real pointed questions about things.
Okay.
she doesn't like when he does it, so she's definitely not gonna like when I do it. So part of me is like 20 years in entrepreneurship. Immediately, I'm like, that's not easy to do. For you to be able to ride the waves of what entrepreneurship is. The self-doubt, I wonder if for you're saying you don't know if you could pull it off. That doesn't really sound like an accurate statement to me, only because your track record says you have been able to pull it off. So that's not exactly maybe the thought. And so what I try to do is get people to really be exact and precise and accurate in their speech and language. So then to me, it's not about whether or not you can pull it off because your track record says for 20 years you've been able to. It's a matter of, is it going to look how you envisioned it? Like, is the outcome going to be good? And so I think I try to talk to people about, their sense of control and trying to get to a place of balance, right? And I think, Barzini has kind of labeled it really eloquently before, but talking about how there's good and bad in all things. And that's just what it is, right? It doesn't mean that altogether everything's terrible. It's just there's some stuff that we really want, and then there's some unpleasantness that comes with that, even with really good things, right? So entrepreneurship, you get freedom to, create your own price. You can give yourself a raise whenever you want. There's freedom of your time. You have more control over your time, and in theory. Also, it's not always as consistent as you want it to be. You got to do a lot more figuring it out. The responsibility and onus is on you. You don't get to have sick time or, vacation time and really just, take 2 weeks off. You have to factor that stuff in. I think what you're saying is when you get worried or concerned, it's about the outcome you want to happen. You aren't sure if it is going to happen. And that's where people kind of get stuck on. And so I'm really trying to push people like, hey, you got to have a more balanced thing that you don't really get to control outcomes. What you can control is what you do. And what we know from your history is that when you do what you do, when you're in your bag, it works out well. If it didn't, we won't have 20 years in entrepreneurship.
I feel free. I've been free.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
We'll see y'all next week. Show.
I know, right? That's
She thought that
excellent.
was going to take longer.
Yeah.
No, that's really good.
So let me ask you this question, because that question was more geared toward what's already been done, right? And so what would you say to those? Well, me, I always got something cooking. Right?
Every day on several different burners on the stove.
Right. But so my growth and my progression over the years is, no, I don't do everything. Yes, I have multiple things that usually kind of integrate, right? Like I'm an author, I'm writing books, but I'm also doing the podcast and I'm creating online courses. And those are kind of, but it's also the things that you haven't launched and the areas that you haven't grown in. No matter, so me, like I have a wealth of experience. I've gained a wealth of knowledge. I've seen what works, especially in the areas of education and personal development, right? Like I've literally written 2 personal development books. And even in writing it, you still have that feeling like, are they going, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Even though, those who have the book and spoke on it, I've not got one negative review or feedback from it. But you still have that feeling of when you get in front of people, are they really buying this? And I don't mean personally, like, are they believing what I'm saying? Or if I get into large groups, or like, okay, I spoke to this group, but I don't know if I can get on a stage at 10,000, right? And then you kind of imagine, you got that inner bully going on where you might post. It's almost similar when you post something on Facebook. And then you got people want to chime in and disagree, right? And I've imagined myself on stage speaking, and somebody from the crowd starts disagreeing, like in social media, right? And you're like, hey, like, get out of there. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? But while it's never happened, like I speak and people are asking for autographs, and folks are coming like opening up, I've spoken even on the show, mentioned that having been abused and molested as a kid, and I said that during, a talk that I did. And there's this gentleman that came up, was like, I've never heard a man talk about that. He's like, the same thing happened to me, and I've never told anybody, not even my parents. Like, how did you tell your parents? And so it was opening up things for people, and you never know. And I might answer my own question here, but I still want you to answer it. It's say my approach is always say it or do it anyway, right? But and because you never know the impact. And I always say, like, how dare you have a gift and not share it with the world? Right? Like, it's not yours. Like, if you have a gift or an ability to do something, approach it like it doesn't belong to you, because it doesn't. It was given to you for the world, right? You have this gift to work through you. So I operate, but still, there's still those thoughts, what I mean? Even though I don't believe them, they're there. And it's this fight, you know what I mean? So
for sure.
For those who are struggling with that as well, like, what would you say to them?
So I'm glad you mentioned the inner bully. And so for people that aren't familiar with that concept, you might have heard it called the critical inner voice or the inner critic. It's really that voice that lives on the inside of us that preys on our insecurities, our fears, our self-doubt, and tries to get us to like not believe in ourselves. And I try to tell people that that's a liar. Like, the inner bully is a liar. It just wants to get out and hurt you, no different from a real bully. So you shouldn't just believe it. But the problem is that because it comes from the inside of us, we kind of accept it. And so, one of the first activities I do is like try to have people give their inner bully a name so that we can start to kind of personify it and separate it out from who you are. But when you're talking about like you're doing stuff and like every time that you get into it, maybe it's a new space or you feel like you're starting over. So for somebody like you who's constantly doing something new, you probably will feel like, I'm not sure, because you're doing something new again. That's appropriate. What's not appropriate is to tell yourself like, oh, I'm going to have some heckler and they're going to chop away and, dissect everything I said, and I'm going to be embarrassed and look like a fool up here. There's no evidence for that. I think what happens for people is that they get to a place where they have a level of like success and confidence and are doing things, but then struggle with kind of accepting the fact that having success and leveling up doesn't mean you know everything. And so what I try to do is talk about, this idea of imposter syndrome in a way of where I believe like the antithesis to that is radical acceptance of self. Some people call it radical self-acceptance, but it's really like that idea of balance that I was talking about. Is like, can you say that you're good and talented and you've done amazing things here, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you've done it over in this area. Also, in having done it here, that maybe you have the skill set to do it over here, and it might not be perfect, and that's okay, because we factored into the idea of ourselves that I am not perfect. I am not always going to do things right. That part of my learning comes from not being successful on time one. I don't need to see myself as a failure of that I can accept that I am doing things well, and I'm also trying to be a better version of myself. And if you can hold those two truths, then I think that you're less impacted by what your inner bully says. Now, I don't want people to think like, I think oftentimes people say, well, I want to get rid of my inner bully. I don't know that I believe that that's possible. Or people say like, I don't want to have, imposter syndrome anymore. I don't want to struggle with my imposterism. Again, I don't know that that's possible. What I can say is that, the frequency, duration, and intensity of like your imposterism or the thoughts you have about being a fraud can reduce. You can reduce those areas so that it doesn't last as long. It doesn't feel as heavy. It doesn't come around as frequently.
Gotcha.
That's good. That's good. Well, I have a question. Does imposter syndrome show up in relationships?
This has been the Crossroads Podcast. And remember, be free to be you.